there's a fundamental difference between being a child and being childish, which can potentially lead to pathological personality. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Dr. B, Addiction Recovery, and the topic I want to do a little bit of a deep dive from a different angle that you're not used to, as usual today, is raising children to avoid substance abuse and other mental health issues. Raising children to avoid substance abuse and the whole medley of other mental health pathological processes that occur to us during development. Okay, well, let me begin by saying this. There is a fundamental difference between being a child in the healthiest sense of the term, put in the healthiest ideal context. Being a child and being childish. Again, there's a fundamental difference between being a child and being childish, which can potentially lead to at worst pathological personality issues, in addition to and or anxiety, depression, disassociation, and the whole gamut of crap that so many people suffer from. My position is pretty clear on this and how I feel about it. At the root of this, what we're talking about is the healthy, whole, strong, secure, robust, functioning development of the self. And what I'm talking about here is the difference between being a child or being allowed to be a child or to be given the tools, the invigoration, the substances in your environment which your parents are responsible for to be a healthy child and go through your stages of development, versus being childish, okay, which at worst can lead to pathological personality disorders and traits, whether you use the 5-factor model or any other construct you wish to use, which really is talking about the healthy development of the self. And if this goes wrong, really the healthy development of the self, which is manifest by any one of the 5-factor model traits or any construct that you wish to, which really translates into coming up with depression, anxiety, disassociation, depersonalization, derealization, and an unhealthy developmental trajectory, which one of the outcomes to pacify and soothe that pathological process is substance abuse. That's what we are talking about here. Unfortunately, at this current point in time, and it has been going on for quite a long time, and I don't see it getting better, most adults, not children, most adults at this current state of time have evolved in a way that they are either completely childish or to a great extent childish enough, which creates a situation where they don't have the tools to raise children. And this is a byproduct of the social milieu that we operated in and have constructed for ourselves, including the very institutions, I really think all institutions at this time, but the very institutions that are supposed to lend themselves and infuse us with support, okay, and education and resources, A, for us to be healthy, and B, to create an environment where we can raise children versus infusing them with eternal childishness. Think about that. This is quite tragic. What I'm saying is childish people are raising children, and that makes it even more difficult for those children to come up in a healthy way, create and construct a relatively healthy ego, so that there's no manifestations or minimal manifestation or only statistical variations in the declaration or presentation in the frequency of mental health issues, including in particular, and maybe top 5 of this list, substance abuse. If you think I'm wrong, take a look around you. How's it been working out? Look at the data coming out, whether it's from professional societies or academic journals, both in adolescent substance abuse, rates of increasing substance abuse, rates of depression, anxiety, suicide from adolescent on. All of these numbers seem to be increasing across the board. Even the ones that are staying seemingly stable or decreasing, the pathological head is popping up somewhere else. Bear with me, let me lay the foundations down. We're going to get into a case example or two, or a description or two, to get you to see what I'm talking about, and then you're going to have that aha moment. In fact, I'll even go on to say that if an individual or a couple is fully vested in attempting to raise a child with the idea of creating the healthiest environment for that child so that his ego, his self, his processes can develop to be the best that they can be for that individual child, they are set up to fail due to environmental influences, pressures, and resources available to them. They're actually set up to fail in one or multiple areas to achieve the goal of raising that child in the best way possible. That is where our society is at currently. In fact, I'll go on to further say that every social institution that we have currently, formal or otherwise, in the broadest sense of the terms, every social institution that we have currently, formal or otherwise, in its demand and promotion of what could be described narcissistic values at the social level, versus a mindful, meditative, reflective, and maturity-inducing growth of an adult to reach their potential, to mitigate issues that they have had, to lend itself with physical, structural, and financial support for that particular adult. Every one of these institutions, creates so much mental stress on the adult that it imposes, induces, and almost forces every individual to just either barely survive and stay above water, or participate in this circus environment that we have created. And the stress of this is so overwhelming, people find themselves not having the tools, resources, or even bandwidth, psychological, emotional, intellectual, physical, to give to their children, as we often have traditionally during the evolution of societies. That's where we are at. This even includes the circus show that we call the family courts, which are by legal definition, as far as this area is concerned, their first priority is to protect the child. When you find an individual that's really trying to stand up for promoting in the deepest fundamental way in trying to protect her child, they may even be reprimanded. They may be reprimanded with even jail or losing custody, or punished in multiple other ways if they push and prod too hard to trying to get justice or create an environment for their child that is healthy, if it goes too deep beyond the time and the availability of the system. That's where we are at right now. Having said all of this, I need to really now start talking about, what is it to raise a healthy child? What are you talking about, Dr. B? Quite a bit of this is abstract. And I'll continue in that same line, but talk about what it takes to raise a healthy child, which have been available in traditional societies to individuals, mother, father, and so forth, just aren't available to us anymore, because the amount of intellectual, emotional, psychological and physical resources and needed and educational. You have to have a certain minimal bar of understanding what all of this is, and if you don't, there should be resources and education available to you. But overall, what it demands is quite a lot. I don't deny that. It's taxing. I don't deny that. So again, we're going far beyond the obvious physical abuse, sexual abuse, gross emotional abuse such as screaming and so forth, okay? Oftentimes you see a lot of these things going on towards children at their earliest age that have a subtlety in nature, and you watch individuals as they completely miss the cue of the onslaught that is happening against that child during critical developmental stages, okay? You can see it on the child's face, and even if you don't, you have to have some understanding of the processing of a child at a particular age and what you are doing to that child with every single engagement or non-engagement, interaction and non-interaction that you have with that child, and how that imprints under a psyche as they're coming up as how to go about things. This is a relatively short video, but what you have to really think about here is when these processes go wrong, okay, as I said before, you are creating a pathological sense of self for that child, which itself could translate into what's considered as depression, anxiety, lack of value towards oneself, lack of meaning of oneself and the world around them, the construction of time, and the storyline the child tells himself. And with that, oftentimes, when they're suffering from chronic anxiety or chronic depression or even disassociation, but simply just sometimes feeling crappy about who they are and themselves, the child himself or herself isn't aware of this, and what you end up getting is anxiety that they're not aware of. And through these avenues of social interaction and engagement as the kid starts to hit their teenage years, if they're not grossly pathologically messed up by this time, they may run into a situation and somebody might offer them a benzo, an opiate, whatever it is. And for multiple reasons, when that self is not whole, they participate in using that substance, and eventually they realize this gives me an opportunity, an ability to hide from myself. Parents should be subsidized if need be. Parents should be educated if need be. There should be a lot more resources for parents, single parents. Now, to go over exactly what that child needs in detail and explaining all of this, we just don't have the space or time here. But I've drawn a big picture and a big landscape here, and a lot of this is incumbent upon you to go back, do some research, do some reading, look up some of the current best practices, go back and do basic reading. You don't have to do very complex reading. But I can tell you this, when you're with that child, okay, your complete attention and focus to the most minuscule detail should be the child. The child needs a lot of stimulation, okay? They need a lot of intellectual stimulation, because there are certain times and years that will pass and you can never capture that. And if you don't have the tools or the knowledge or the resources, find them somewhere, okay? The child needs constant emotional feedback and physical feedback, especially in the early years. Lots of love, lots of hugging, lots of touching. They need a lot of reassurance, okay, that this is the safe place to be. They need to be given a little bit of a rope to declare their independence, make decisions, start to understand their free will, autonomy, and choices that needs to be curbed back with rules, regulations, and discipline. They like that. They crave that, okay? Recently, I heard one parent tell a 3-year-old, right? The 3-year-old is actually in school, daycare, a really good daycare, and they're sitting there saying, guess what? Okay, summer vacation is coming up. Why would you say that to a 3-year-old, giving him an idea? It's wrong for several reasons. Number one, you're implanting in a 3-year-old's head that school sucks, okay? And summer is what you're striving for. There's no need to do that. You can actually raise that kid in a way that he enjoys going to school, interacting with his peers, and learning. Number two, the data is clear on this kind of thing. You know, this summer break thing is a bogus concept that means nothing. You're setting up in that very minuscule way, you're setting that child up for failure, okay? That's one tiny example. Going to end this because I want to keep it short. Think about what I said. There's a lot more questions maybe proposed to you than answers, but this is the key to prevention of going into or developing something that is more likely than not. Of course, there's always statistical variations and certain things that you can't control, but this is really the key to prevention of substance abuse and a lot of mental health disorders. I hope this helps. If there's a lot of questions, please start a generated discussion below. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and thumbs up. See you guys soon.